The legend and legacy of Naga Sadow is a fascinating story. Next to nothing is known about his early life. His story really begins in 5000 BBY when he made his mark on the entire galaxy as an ultra-powerful Sith Lord. Sadow took command of the Sith Empire of his day and went to war with the galaxy. This war coincided with the regular adoption of the hyperdrive, as we would most commonly understand it, and hyperspace travel becoming a regular occurrence in the galaxy. These two major events in galactic history would merge and be known as the Great Hyperspace War. When Marka Ragnos, the reigning Sith Lord at the time, died in 5000 BBY, there were two other Sith fighting for the top spot, Naga Sadow and Ludo Kresh. Being that this transmission is about Sadow and not Kresh, you can probably guess who would ultimately win. Their conflict wasn't as cut and dry as a simple duel. Before the actual duel that would have made it a simple story could come to a finite conclusion, a pair of hyperspace prospectors, Gav and Jory Darragon, found their way to Korriban, the Sith Empire home world. The majority of the Sith wanted to kill these two outsiders outright. Sadow saw a larger picture. The Sith had spent years in isolation, building up their empire and conquering the surrounding areas. They all but forgot about the larger republic their predecessors had broken away from and even went to war with. Sadow saw the republic as a path to further glory for himself and captured the Darragon siblings as his ticket in. He had the prisoners quietly transported to the moon Kar-Shian, which he ruled over. He made it look like forces from the Republic sprang them to generate this animosity against that organization. He got intel from the Darragons on the Republic, posing as a friend and ally. He used the planted evidence to convince the other Sith Lords to appoint him leader of the Sith Empire and follow him into war against the Republic. The Sith at this time were widely versed in Sith Alchemy. Sadow would use this unique skill to bend the Massassi culture to his will and enhance them for combat. He even went a step further and began to teach the Darragon brother in the ways of the dark side, keeping his sister, Jory, separated from him. Making Jory feel alone and desperate was all part of his plan. The Sith have a long history of being conniving plan setters. Kresh learned of Sadow's lies and confronted his adversary once again. The two factions of Sith had a battle where Sadow was the clear victor. Jory saw the moment as an opportunity and jumped through hyperspace toward the Republic. Sadow, being one step ahead of all of those around him, knew that Kresh would attack, allowing Sadow to put his enemy down. He also knew Jory would run at her first opportunity and attached a tracking device to her ship, opening the passage for him to raid the Republic. Sadow knew that the Republic Navy would beat his own navy in a straight-up fight. He would divide his forces to assault multiple core planets at the same time to divide and confuse the Republic. He utilized guerrilla warfare to successfully pull off hit-and-run tactics. This allowed him to gain resources, sow fear, and fight Republic forces when they were more limited in strength. To reinforce these intelligent maneuvers, Naga Sadow was well learned in the incredibly unique forceability of battle meditation. Battle meditation would boost the morale, will, stamina, and overall effectiveness of his allied forces. It would simultaneously confuse opponents and sap their will to fight. This ability was made much more well known by Bastila Shan in the amazing Knights of the Old Republic game. Sadow's forces, led by many skilled and fearsome Sith generals, had success in many systems, including an assault on Coruscant itself. I'm not going into every last battle of the Great Hyperspace War. It's a fascinating legend, and much of it exists in some type of gray area in canon, as the Old Republic era is still being updated in the form of a very popular MMORPG. My recommendation would be not to worry about canon or not canon and just enjoy whatever stories you happen to come across. One battle that we do have to talk about, as it relates directly to Sadow's individual story, is the battle at Koros Major. This planet, also known as Empress Teta, is a world in the deep core of the primary galaxy. This was the home system of the Darragon siblings. Gav Darragon was put in charge of the invasion fleet, the thought being that he would know the inner workings better than anyone, which would help him greatly with the specific type of warfare that the Sith were engaging in. I find it a bit odd that Gav was put in charge of a contingent of forces at all, being so new to the Sith, let alone ones in his own home system, and that would end up being the beginning of the end for Sadow's attack on the Republic. Gav ended up face to face with his sister, Jory. In the time since they had split up, Jory had been learning the ways of the light side of the Force under Jedi Master Odan Ur. Quick side fact, Odan is one of the Jedi who annotated the sacred Jedi texts that we saw in The Last Jedi. Gav did not fight his sister. Instead, he fled. He must have had a moment of awakening, at the very least some strong self-doubt, because he abandoned his forces and the attack that he was supposed to be leading fell apart. Gav traveled to Primus Golud, where Sadow was intensely concentrating on his battle meditation skill inside of a meditation sphere, which would help amplify his powers. This broke the battle meditation. Sith troops all across the galaxy felt the loss of support and the loss of the ability. Battles all over this galaxy began to turn to the side of the light and the Republic. A big part of Sadow's battle meditation was in creating illusions of his fleets, making them appear to be significantly larger in number than they actually were. The Republic answered in kind and began wiping out the much smaller invasion forces. Intimidation no longer a factor. Sadow called for a retreat and consolidated all of his forces above Primus Golud. Republic forces, with the scorned Jory at the lead, followed the retreat. Sadow saw that winning was impossible. He abandoned his forces and activated a Sith superweapon built into his flagship, the Corsair. This weapon would target the core star of a system, causing it to go supernova and blowing it up. Any ships or being nearby would also be obliterated. Gav, who was already waking up from the pull of the dark side, warned the Republic forces of the impending explosion so they could escape. He also sent them the coordinates of the Sith Empire before the superweapon detonated, destroying the remaining Sith attack forces. Gav went down along with them. Naga Sadow returned to the Sith Empire. He was defeated by the Republic, but his time at war was not over. When he returned home, he was thrown into another conflict. Ludo Kresh was still alive and waiting for Sadow's return. Sadow did still have some Sith forces loyal to him, and an internal battle among the Sith broke out. Two parts of the Sith fleet were engaged in a battle above Korriban. Kresh was killed in this battle by Sadow's forces before the Republic fleet would arrive. The Republic must have been shocked to see the Sith in a full-on war against each other. Taking advantage of the situation, the Republic fleet opened fire on the divided Sith forces, eliminating both sides of their civil war. Sadow, once again, sacrificed his own forces to make his escape. At this point in the story, I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing. He's kind of a pathetic Sith Lord. The Republic, under Supreme Chancellor Poltimo, wasn't satisfied with the victory so far. He rallied as many forces and Jedi as he could and sent orders to hunt down the remaining Sith. Sith space was fully invaded. Any Sith found were killed. Many killed themselves before the Republic forces and the Jedi could find them. Any Sith fortress or compound found was obliterated. I had a couple small issues with this part of the story. One, the Jedi hunting down enemies. I know they're Sith, but still the Jedi being on a seek and destroy mission doesn't feel quite right. And also, Sith Lords, maybe it was just Sith followers, killing themselves also seems wrong. They really seem like the fight to the last breath kind, but I guess this is what happened, so we could just move past it. The Sith were defeated, and they took huge losses, but they were not entirely exterminated. They did survive in small pockets around the galaxy. Naga Sadow, feeling more like a cockroach than a Sith Lord at this point, brought his enslaved Massassi warriors to the Yavin system in Republic space and hid out on the fourth moon. He put his body into stasis to let things cool off. His Massassi warriors, leaderless, devolved and ended up fighting each other to extinction. Much of the Republic side of the war is told in the semi-historical and semi-mythological Kel Droma epics. Citizens of the galaxy understand that this is a combination of fact and fiction. The works are appreciated for their contents. To draw a correlation to our own history on Earth, it's like the Greek tragedies, where history and fiction are mixed for compelling timeless stories that focus on tragedy, heroism, and morality tales. Something else I wanted to get into was the concept of a pureblood Sith. A pureblood Sith is a member of the Sith species who were taught in the ways of the dark side and became a Sith Lord, as we understand it in regards to Darth Sidious or Darth Vader being Sith Lords. During the Second Great Schism, a group of dark Jedi broke away from the Jedi Order, started a war called the 100-Year Darkness, and were banished into wild space. These dark Jedi found the Sith species. The fallen Jedi, Ajunta Pall, took control of this superstitious species and became the first Sith Emperor. Over centuries, the Dark Jedi and the Sith species interbred. Their offspring embodied Sith in both definitions of the word. Naga Sadow was one of these pureblood Sith. For more on Ajunta Pall, the Second Great Schism, the 100-Year War, the conquering of the Sith species, everything we just went over, I do have a transmission all about Ajunta Pall that I'll link in the description. As I mentioned previously, this is in a gray area between canon and legends. If you want to read the full account of the Great Hyperspace War, Dark Horse Comics in the 90s had a great run. Tales of the Jedi, the Golden Age of the Sith. This was later released in a trade paperback that's definitely easier to find than the individual issues. In time, I'll do a transmission all about the war itself. In the prequel trilogy, there is a relief on the walls in Palpatine's office. This relief represents the Great Hyperspace War and Naga Sadow's forces particularly. The scene where Anakin realizes that Palpatine is the Sith Lord that the Jedi had been looking for has this expertly framed in the background. The contents of this relief is confirmed in the 2014 canon novel Tarkin, which is a great read about one of the most evil men in the Empire. You can learn all about Tarkin in this transmission next.